in to Right Hand, Left Hand with Josh and John. We are previewing the NFL draft this week. Today is Monday, April 26th. The draft is this Thursday, the 29th, or the first round is, and then the second and third rounds will be Friday, the 30th, with the rest of the draft happening, I believe, on Saturday. I don't think they do Sunday anymore, but we are mostly worried about the first round because that's where all the excitement comes in. So Josh and I are going to talk about the Panthers a little bit later, but before we do, we have some guests on to talk about some of their favorite teams. We have Michael Uritia talking Cowboys, and we'll have some Philadelphia Eagles with Adam Oakes. After that, we'll go Pittsburgh Steelers with Harrison Strother. And finally, before we get to the Panthers, we'll wrap up with a little bit of Tennessee Titans coverage with Brian Betts. Josh and I both lived in Nashville for a while, worked together, so we want to throw some love to the Tennessee Titans as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get it on with Michael and the Cowboys. So now we welcome in Michael here to talk with us a little bit of Dallas Cowboys. They got number 10 overall pick in this year's NFL draft. Just re-signed Dak Prescott to a big extension as well. So what I'm seeing, I see a lot of people having the Cowboys taking Patrick Surtain. Patrick Surtain the second, I guess. We can improve the defensive backfield. What do you think about that, Mike?
I think it's a good pick. I like either personally Surtain the second or J.C. Horn from South Carolina. But at 10, we're in a precarious spot. Depending on how the quarterbacks fall out before then. I'm not opposed to trading back because I think we could still get Horn or Farley if we traded back maybe with New England or someone who's trying to move up. But you never know. Will Pitts fall? If he does, I know Jones will probably take him. That's just how he operates.
Yeah.
But, I would definitely say defense, and we definitely need to go offensive line in some later rounds because we definitely need to beef that up with all of our injury history with Smith and everybody else. So I definitely say defense. If we keep number 10 and pick, we got to go defense.
Yeah, they're kind of in that same range, like that 8, 9, 10 sort of range. That's a lot of teams I feel like always tend to trade out of those spots, either up or down. It's kind of funny that you mentioned offensive line, though, because they've been, that was kind of their MO there for several years was with, Tyron Smith and a couple of those other guys. But they've just gotten older and they've had some injuries there, so.
Sorry, you're trying to cut out. But, yeah, just our offensive line is good, but they can't stay healthy. So I don't think it hurts if you're in a spot to get a good offensive lineman to be able to just rotate or step in case of injuries. Because I don't think Smith's played a full season in several years. He only played 3 or 4 games last year, which were good at skill positions. But offensive line and defense is where we got to beef up, especially the secondary. And I think they'll go defensive tackle probably in the second or third, depending on who's there for us to select. So,
yeah, I like the cornerback selection for you guys, especially with Galladay coming into that division as well. You need somebody in that secondary that can help shut them down, especially if the Eagles go wide receiver later on. I think they're right after you guys. You can see that. Yeah, you can see them easily getting like a Devontae Smith or somebody to help out, Jalen Hurts, if that's the quarterback route they're going to go with. And what's the other team in that division?
Washington.
Washington, yeah. So, I mean, I don't even know who they have anymore. They're releasing Alex Smith.
Yeah, they have Taylor Heineke.
Yeah.
And Kyle Allen.
No, they have Fitzmagic.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So, yeah, I like the quarterback selection for you guys as well. And then also beefing up that offensive line, getting Zeke some running lanes. Because when he was running, man, he was a fantasy football god, essentially, getting touchdowns every week.
Yeah, I definitely think if we stay at 10, we would probably have the pick of the litter when it comes to defense. I definitely think that Surtain or Horn, they're high character guys. both their dads played in the league. They kind of know how this thing works. They got pedigree. I think a lot of it, the question marks are going to be if one of the quarterbacks, if Fields, Jones, whoever falls, is there someone willing to trade up? Because I'm not opposed to falling back 3 or 4 spots, because you still probably be able to get one of the top 3 corners out there. The only reason Farley's fallen is because he got hurt last year. So I'm not opposed to us being able to trade back and get other picks in later rounds and maybe a first next year. But, a lot of it's guessing game. Is there going to be someone fall like Rodgers, and someone wanting to jump up?
I would think New England would probably be your best bet as like a trade partner, because they obviously their quarterback situation is pretty questionable right now. They re-signed Cam Newton, but I think we've all accepted that Cam's on his last leg at this point, and so drafting a quarterback is definitely in their wheelhouse. But it's just a matter of what is Belichick, because they're at 15, so it's just a matter of what is Belichick willing to give up, and like you said, what quarterbacks end up falling. Because I don't think the top 4 picks will all be quarterbacks, so I think at least 1 or 2 of those guys will end up. Probably Fields and Lance are the guys that are going to end up falling, unless the whole 49ers thing about Mac Jones is just a total smokescreen and they want to take somebody else. Like if they want to take Fields, right, and they're just trying to distract people by talking about Mac Jones. So I think it'll be interesting to see what the 49ers do, and then if Trey Lance or Mac Jones falls down there, if New England or somebody was wanting to trade up and get them, or maybe even Detroit, who knows? Well, Detroit's at 8, right? So Detroit could actually be one of those teams that trades back. I'm just looking at the teams that might draft a quarterback. I mean, Washington's number 19, so that would be tough for them to move up that far. Philadelphia hasn't committed to Jalen Hurts, so should be really interesting right around that range where, the Panthers, Broncos, and Cowboys at 8, 9, and 10.
Yeah, I think 8 or 10 is going to be that money spot, because I think if someone falls, Denver might take one. I think they're ready to move on to lock.
For sure.
So is someone going to be like, all right, I'm going to trade with Carolina and not trade with Dallas because I want to get ahead of Denver?
Right. Yeah, I could definitely see if Mac Jones falls back down there, the Patriots wanting to come up and get him. He's very similar to a Tom Brady type of player, somebody that Bill Belichick really likes.
Right. The other question mark is, does Atlanta take a quarterback? There's so many scenarios that could happen. Like, do you want to bring somebody in? Because you can't move off Ryan. You owe him too much money for the next year or 2. But when are you going to be at number 4? Like, the quarterback class next year is nowhere near as good. There's so many scenarios. We could just talk about this, all day.
Absolutely. And we pretty much are going to be talking about it all day. So it's going to be a fun one.
Right. Well, for this, I say if Dallas stays, you have to go Surtain or Horn. I don't think there's any other player that you could take at that spot. I think if they trade out, they'll be able to get Horn or Farley, and get some other picks. But there's just nobody else that fits your need that's going to be available without either reaching or getting someone you really don't need. Like, we don't need receivers. We don't need a lot of the skill positions. We need defense that fits
Agreed.
our new scheme.
All right. Well, look for the Cowboys to go DB this weekend, this Thursday, hopefully. Otherwise, Mike and all the Cowboys fans are going to be pretty upset. But we'll see what Jerry Jones ends up doing, because he's always the wild card there. So
I do have one more little dark horse pick. If they're thinking about moving off Jalen Smith or Van Der Esch, don't be surprised if they jump and get Parsons. He is a playmaker, but it's not really our necessary need. We have linebackers, but if they're looking forward, like we're going to trade them or cut them just because of production, that's also a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, definitely going defense. Like, that defense was terrible last year. I could see them going anywhere on defense, but I like the DB pick personally for the Cowboys, like you were saying, with maybe a trade back and get some extra picks. So thanks for joining us, Mike, talking a little Cowboys with us, and we will move on to our next team then.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, guys, for having me. Go Cowboys.
All right, now we got Adam here to talk with us a little bit about the Philadelphia Eagles. Adam loves talking shit, and just like other Eagles fans, he loves eating shit. So I've seen a lot of mock drafts with the Eagles taking like Jalen Waddle, or I know you mentioned Devontae Smith, J.C. Horn. I've seen a couple with J.C. Horn, or if Patrick Surtain falls that low. But basically everything I'm seeing is wide receiver or DB for the Eagles.
Yeah, I see a lot of that. Some people say Micah Parsons just because he's a Penn State guy, and we do have a need at linebacker, but Howie doesn't typically like to go linebacker, so I don't know if I see that happening. For me, it's easy, Devontae Smith, especially with all right, there's a cool stat I look at. In 2019, they had Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, Devontae Smith, and Jalen Waddle. And I think they're all the same age, but and Devontae Smith was that number one receiver out of those four, led them in receiving yards and TDs in 2019. And then we all know what he did in 2020. So I think it's funny how right after the national championship, he was going at like 2, 3, 4. And then of course all the QBs jump ahead of him. And now the Eagles traded down and they still think he might be available at 12. So to me, it's a no-brainer. But we still have that need. We still need a DB. We still need linebackers. We still need safeties, and maybe some defensive end depth. But they need a quarterback. So they need everything.
Yeah, the Eagles were kind of a shit show last year. It was pretty funny. But yeah, Jamar Smith is really like his stock has really gone up. I know people were thinking Devontae Smith would be I don't know if I think I just called him Jamar Smith. I meant Jamar Chase.
Jamar Chase.
But yeah, people were having Devontae Smith going, where now they have him going up there at 5-6 range to Cincinnati or Miami, and then Kyle Pitts up there as well. I mean, he's technically a tight end, but offensive weapon. So I don't know. I think he'd be pretty lucky if Devontae Smith falls down that far, but it's definitely possible. I think Jalen Waddle's probably more likely, although people are having some concerns about Devontae Smith's size. I guess he weighs like 165 pounds or something. So I don't know if you're worried about that.
Yeah, it's crazy to think he's my height and I weigh 30 pounds more than him, and I'm not big by any means.
He's a lot faster than you, though.
Yeah, well, he does have a 6'7" wingspan, but so that's what definitely, like, all the draft experts dropped him for that. And I mean, I think a lot of his talent is it's tough to quantify because he is great. He runs routes great. He's excellent hands, and he has a 6'7" wingspan, so he can go up and grab anything. So I think of him a lot as like Randy Moss, because he was a little small when he got drafted, but he was fast, and like nobody could jump. I mean, they literally they coined the term Moss after him. Nobody could jump with him, and I think Devontae Smith can do that.
I mean, yeah, he's like 6'1", so you got to think an NFL training staff can put some weight on a guy who's 6'1".
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that you want Devontae Smith. Are you completely sold on Jalen Hurts?
Well, I just think that while there are some good QBs, I think everyone reaches on them. So I think it's so hard to draft a QB. But I mean, it doesn't matter what I think. The Eagles are going to screw it up, and they'll probably reach for a quarterback, or they'll settle for someone. I mean, it'd be great if a great talent drops, like Patrick Surtain or Kyle Pitts. I just don't see that happening, and I see the Eagles just ignoring the obvious talent that's there. But I mean, you're right. We do need a QB. I just don't know if I don't think it's worth reaching on anybody.
Now, if somebody I've been seeing, like, with Mac Jones going 3, Justin Fields might be there for you guys. What do you think about that?
I think the Eagles would reach on. I think if he's there, they'll get him. But I don't know if I agree with that. But they're saying they're really high on Justin Fields, so there's a good chance that'll happen if he's there.
Yeah, there's like this kind of weird thing where people were really high on Justin Fields and he was like going to be the second quarterback, and then everybody jumped on the Zach Wilson bandwagon and people just kind of forgot about Justin Fields. It's like he had a really good college football playoff. Like he did really well in both those games against, excellent defenses. So I don't really get, where that's coming from, especially compared to a guy like Trey Lance, who's played one season at North Dakota State, whereas Justin Fields, has been great at Ohio State for 2 years. So I don't know what all that's about. But yeah, if Justin Fields is there, I don't know. I feel like they should give Jalen Hurts a year and see, because if he's bad, then they'll be, at least in the same draft position, I would think.
Yeah, and they're rebuilding anyway, so it's like, why not build the tools around them before you go and get a quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, that's this mistake that the Jets made with Sam Darnold, is they just didn't get him anything at all and just totally like wrecked his confidence. We'll see what he does.
That's the mistake the Jets will continue to make.
Yeah, man, the Jets, they're so bad. But
It's just a shit show up there.
do you like the new coach? Like, you guys made the rare hire where the guy actually has a reputation as kind of a dumbass.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything yet because we just won't know, but I'm not excited by any means. I think it's just a rebuilding stage. So if anything, I kind of hope they do tank a little bit. But
did you agree with the firing of Doug Peterson?
I think it made sense. I don't know if I necessarily agree, because I do think he was a great football coach. I don't think he was a mastermind by any means, but he, like the year they won the Super Bowl, they just had the mojo and the energy, and he was a great locker room coach. I don't think he was. I think Frank Reich was the mastermind. But I think it's probably best for the Eagles just because they're in a rebuilding stage and they're gonna get a lot of young tools. I say that some people don't really think they're in a rebuilding stage because they still have a lot of older pieces like Fletcher Cox and Lane Johnson that are great players. But and they still have a decent O line and D line. But overall, I think I agree with it, but I don't think he's a bad coach. I just think it wasn't the spot for him anymore.
Right.
I mean, that and the whole like tanking fiasco in the second half of that game against, I think it was the Giants or Washington. It was one of those two, and that's also that's the football team. But that's going to make it hard. It's hard for anybody to tank in that division because the division's so mediocre. And I think now that the Cowboys have Dak back, I think the Cowboys are the clear front runner. But that division has just been so bad. Although I guess it's improving somewhat. We'll see what the Giants do this offseason. But
I think Washington will be good again. But yeah, I think I wasn't opposed to that. I'm one of those Eagles fans that didn't care that they did that because it just meant that the Giants and Cowboys couldn't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I loved it. I liked Washington. I wanted to see what they could do. But I think that was kind of the end for Doug Peterson, though. He couldn't really recover from that.
All right.
I agree with you on that.
We'll see how it plays out. We'll see. I think wide receiver is probably the right move. You got to get some weapons in there, especially, if you want to fairly assess Jalen Hurts. Like they haven't had anybody to throw to in forever. So it sounds like probably wide receiver is the way that they want to go early.
Yeah, let's hope. They'll screw it up, but that's what I like to see.
All right. Well, thanks for being on with us, Adam. We appreciate it. So now we've covered Cowboys and Eagles, got Titans later on. And of course, Josh and I will do the Carolina Panthers. So stay tuned.
Thanks, all right.
Adam.
Take it easy.
Thanks, Adam.
All right, now we are welcoming in Harrison here to talk a little Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers got the number 24 overall pick in the first round of the NFL draft on Thursday. I've seen a lot of stuff here lately about them being interested in Najee Harris. They did lose James Conner in the offseason, so running back is definitely a position of need. Travis Etienne is also floating around out there at running back. And then I've seen a couple of places thinking that they should go O-line. Harrison, do you like that running back, that O-line? What do you think?
I personally want them to take Najee Harris. I think he fits the perfect, mold and all the criteria for a Steelers running back. But then again, it is the Steelers, and they don't like drafting running backs high. They got Le'Veon in, I think, the second round in 14 or 15. So I mean, I understand the offensive line pick too. I would be satisfied with that, but the draft is so deep with offensive linemen that I think it would be smarter to take the running back in the first and then get an offensive lineman in the second. That's kind of the win now strategy in my mind, for the next few seasons. Honestly, I really wanted the Steelers to take Jalen Hurts last year, but I can't complain with Chase Claypool because I understand once again the win now mentality. But I don't think Roethlisberger has much left in the tank. I really like David Mills. I think he's a solid prospect, and he has a really good throwing motion and get the ball out quick. I also really like Kyle Trask. Of course, I like the other quarterbacks more, but the Steelers, they won't be available when the Steelers pick. I really like who did I say? Kyle Trask. I think that he's almost the most comparable to Roethlisberger in the draft. He had some solid players at Florida. I don't know how much Pitts made him look good. That guy's a monster. So I really wouldn't be surprised if they did take offensive lineman first. I think that's what they're going to do personally, but I would like them to take Harris. I mean, it starts with the line for the running game. And, so if we got Harris back there and didn't shore up the line, it'd be tough for him to get, holes and all that. But I also wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers got an edge rusher or a linebacker, as they almost always do. I mean, seems like every year they take, a defensive end or linebacker. It pays off in the future, but I think the offensive side of the ball in the run game needs some help for sure.
Yeah, they've got an interesting kind of team makeup right now because they have a lot of guys who are really getting close to the end of their career. And I think that's probably why a lot of people are thinking O-line. Because they have young receivers, but a lot of the guys on the O-line are getting up there. Roethlisberger, obviously, as you mentioned, who knows how many more years he has. I would probably suspect this will be his last season. And then on defense, they have a mix of like young talent and aging veterans too. So it's kind of a situation where they're trying to rebuild without really rebuilding.
Yeah, and it's tough because I can't stand the Browns, but the Browns looked good last year and their young team. The Bengals with Burrow, he was lighting it up in the beginning of the last season. I'm very high on Joe Burrow. I think he's going to be a top 5 quarterback in 2-3 years down the line. And also very high on Herbert. So, he's a monster. It's tough because when you're playing against Mahomes, Mahomes, the AFC Championship is probably going to run through Arrowhead for the next, couple of years. So it's tough. They did sign, they got Dwayne Haskins, which I think is a low risk, worth the risk and the money you're going to pay him. Maybe he can, develop a little bit more maturity and responsibility and could turn into something. I don't like Rudolph. I don't think he's the answer. He's not, he just can't, it doesn't seem like he can read the defense that well and never making, the right decisions. But and then there's always the thing too of Roethlisberger getting hurt. It seems like every year he has an injury, and if he doesn't, it's just there's always some ailing injuries to him. That's always seems to be an issue in the season. But if I had to put my money on anything of who they would draft, I would probably put it on an O-lineman. I've heard from the Steelers reporters talking about how deep the center position is in this draft, and they could really use a center. So I wouldn't be surprised if they took a center in the first round. But, man, I would be ecstatic if they could get Najee Harris.
Yeah, I like the O-line pick there for you guys. Is Pouncey still there? I don't keep up with the Steelers.
He retired this past year, actually.
Yeah, so that could definitely be a route that you guys go. But I do love Harris. He's got that Jerome Bettis type feel to him from back in the day.
That's a bad man.
Absolutely. And to be honest with you, before you got on here, we were talking about I like Travis Etienne as well for a pick for you guys.
Yeah, he's the complete back. Seems like he's the best pass catcher out of the top running back prospects. And I really thought he should have entered the draft last year because I don't think he really did much to improve his draft stock because so many people were already high on him last year. If anything, I decreased his shelf life in the NFL by a year by doing it. But like I said, I think he's got, good work ethic, responsible. Won't be getting any off the field issues, and I really like him as well. Like I said, the Steelers just seem to never take a running back in the first round. That's the only reason why I would think they wouldn't.
Right. And I also, you mentioned Kyle Trask. I love Kyle Trask. I've watched a lot of Florida Gators football recently with my wife being a Florida fan. So watching him throw to Kyle Pitts, man, those two, and the wide receiver they had there as well. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he just looked good all around. The only game that I saw him struggle was the Texas A&M game with Kellen Mott. Also, I'm very high on him as well.
Yeah, like I said, I like Trask. I think so. My quarterback rankings would be Lawrence, and then Wilson, and then I really think Trey Lance has all the tools to be an NFL quarterback, and I really think the Niners are going to take him. And I'm scared though, Mac Jones, he's got like the pocket presence and everything, but just he doesn't have the biggest arm. But I'm scared that if Belichick gets him, he's going to be, basically mold him into that system. And who knows? I mean, of course, you can't say he's going to be the next Tom Brady because Tom Brady's just ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, I've never seen somebody be able to go in and just change the whole team as quickly as he did. As he did. I mean, last year when they played the Packers in Lambeau, everybody, I was like, wait, why are they the underdog? You can't bet against Tom Brady in the playoffs. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Exactly.
But I do think I really like Trask, and he was playing against SEC defenses all year, which I think is the best conference in the country. So I'll definitely intrigued to see how he does. I'll definitely be picking up a few of his cards and stuff because nobody's really talking about him. I think I would love if he could fall to the Steelers in the third. I don't know if he'll get to the third, but that would be awesome. That would be like the perfect scenario. And if they could take Harris, an offensive lineman, and then Trask, that would be as happy as they could make me as a Steelers fan.
Yeah, that sounds like a great draft right there. If that could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I hope that we'll see though.
Yeah, I think Trask is in that kind of like top 10 quarterbacks range, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he falls to the third round, honestly, because most of the teams that really need a quarterback are going to get a quarterback in the first round, because it's such an important position. And then, you might be able to get a guy like Trask further down the board in the third or maybe even the fourth.
And Wilson's arm talent and all that is outstanding. I just get a little bit iffy about him because of the level of competition he played against in college, and he really only had 1 year. He blew it up, and he seems like he has all the intangibles, but, very often that happens and they get to the NFL and they can't, read defenses or just can't pick up the schemes. He seems like a smart guy. I just always get iffy on the shorter quarterbacks, but then once again, it's becoming a shorter quarterback league. I mean, Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson,
I mean, if you watch Zach Wilson, the throws he make actually kind of remind me a lot of a guy like Kyler Murray, where he just runs all over the field and he's able to like separate his shoulders from his lower body and is able to get those crazy arm angles or like an Aaron Rodgers even, where he can make such great throws on the run. I think that's why you're seeing him. Everybody's saying him at the number 2 pick, right?
Yeah. I think the potential is definitely there. It's just if I was a GM or making the calls, I would probably, of course I'd take Trevor Lawrence first because he's just everything there and proven. But I mean, that's what Trey Lance. I like all the physical attributes, but then it's like I think it said that he's only played like 8 games, so there's not much film to dissect. And then he was actually in Pensacola where I live, training for the draft. And I went to go get my haircut at the barbershop up the road, and he was up there getting his haircut. So I actually talked to him for minutes. He's a super down to earth guy. He's pretty cool. Seems like he has a good head on his shoulders.
Well, it is really cool. All right, getting the inside information from the from the barbershop. Oh man, I must be thinking about lunch. It's almost lunchtime here. So
I know I'm getting hungry.
Now that Harrison's made me hungry for barbecue, he likes either offensive line or hopefully Najee Harris will fall down there to the Steelers. So look out for that. And thanks for joining us, Harrison.
Yeah, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks, man.
All right, we are now joined by Brian. Brian's a Tennessee Titans fan, lives in Nashville, so he's going to talk a little bit about what he thinks the Titans should do. I'm seeing a lot of stuff on these mock drafts, mostly defense, I guess. I've seen a couple places with like receiver, maybe try to add some depth at receiver, but honestly, I think the offense is pretty good. It was the defense mostly that struggled last season. So, Brian, I know you mentioned you think they might trade out of the spot there. What do you think they should do there?
I don't know, just like I was saying, our GM, he has his track record of first round picks past couple of years have not been great, especially with Isaiah Wilson. He's like, I was talking to you about it earlier. If you don't know him, you should look up what that guy's been through. It's crazy. He's just derailed his whole life. So, but yeah, he tends to, with first round picks, juggle a bunch of stuff around. So I would be surprised if we pick where we're at now on the spot. He'll make a move, but I think I'm not gonna lie, our defense was just bad last year. It was just plain bad. There was no way around it. That was the kryptonite for the Titans. And I was kind of watching that Ravens game last year, and I was like, you could just see Lamar like taking the game over, and you can't stop. Our defense wasn't good enough to stop him. So they beefed up the secondary, man. We need cornerback help in the worst way possible, and then pass rush too. So they got Bud Dupree in the offseason, which is huge. I think everybody's really excited about that. But we re-signed Jayon Brown again, one of our linebackers. I thought that they were going to let him walk, but they actually got him for way cheaper than I thought what he was going to get. But we need some pass rush big time. So they got Damiko Autry too from the Colts. I don't know if you guys know too much about him. He's like sound player. He's not flashy, but he's good for 5-6 sacks a year probably, which is better than what we had. So
yeah,
right.
So most of what I've seen is either cornerback or pass rush. So we'll see.
Yeah, they got Janoris Jenkins. I think he's just, we had a bunch of old men back there playing cornerback. They let Butler walk, and they just signed another old man and Jenkins. So I'm kind of like trying to figure out what they're going to do there. And they let Adoree walk too, which I don't think anybody here has any issues with that. If it were me, I would go for a cornerback. I think your pass rush is better, now where it was last year. I think maybe closer towards the beginning of the season, after you can get players in and work them out with the whole COVID thing, I think they might be able to sign another guy pass rush wise. But secondary needs beefing for the future. We need some young guys that are quick, talented, and ready to play. I'm tired of them grooming people. Like, we just need draft a guy, get him ready, go.
Yeah, the Titans are kind of in win now mode with the roster that they've got, especially on offense. So I guess I'm kind of wondering, so if they trade, would you expect them, is there somebody that you would want them to trade up and get, or would you expect them to just trade back and try and build up some picks, or what?
Well, the other thing too, I think, man, I for some reason, I think if he's going to pull a trade, I think he's going to go offensively and get a wide receiver. I think he's going to. I think he might trade up and try to get. I've been hearing a lot of like EJ Moore's name, that guy from Ole Miss. AJ Brown, he's been a huge guy on trying to get the coaches and the team to look at what EJ's doing. Because they were teammates together. So I wouldn't be surprised if he trades up. If he does, I would rather them go for just get an offensive weapon, and then we've got two second round picks. So we got 2 picks in the second round. So we'll see, defensively who they can pull then. But
yeah, it's funny you talk about wide receiver. Just a few minutes before we got on here. Titans are talking about trading for Julio. And in that trade, essentially they would have to give up some picks.
Yeah.
And probably their first round pick, essentially, in that. and they're going to have to cut some money too, because financially, Julio's owed a ton of money on that contract.
Yeah. Well, I think every team too, man, is going to be affected with the cap this year, and I think that's why you're going to see, like I said, closer towards the beginning of the season, I think you're going to see these guys that should be getting, $5-6 million more. But I think they're going to have to take a pay cut, man, just because teams are not going to be able to afford to dish out money with the cap this year.
Right.
So,
Like you've already seen a bunch of veterans that have gotten cut. I mean, the Panthers did a bunch of that. Pretty much everybody all around the league had to cut a bunch of veterans or
Yeah.
not re-sign people that they probably normally would have. And like you're saying, I think, yeah, you will start to see some of those people get picked up once we get, after the draft and into the summertime when people start working out and stuff. And we'll see some of those guys sign 1-year deals so that when the cap goes back up next year, they can, try and prove it this year and get a bigger contract next year.
I wouldn't say, I mean, obviously I would love if Julio, if they were to somehow work that deal out and he were to come here, I would love that. But, man, I think offensively we're set for like 3-4 years, and then we got Josh Reynolds in the offseason, and I think with him being in LA, he didn't really have an opportunity to grow. So we'll see. We'll see what kind of shoes he can fill here, and be a compliment to AJ Brown because he's taken over number one for sure. But yeah, man, I think if we're gonna spend and trade up picks and or acquire picks and whatever, I would much rather us build a defense for the future, because I think that's trickier, I think, than to building an offense, because you can get stud offensive. I just feel like it's more difficult to find skilled defensive players than it is skilled offensive players. I don't know if you feel that way.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, like the secondary for the Titans was god awful. I mean,
Well,
I think if you can trade up and get a guy, like maybe trade up early into the first round and get a guy like Horn,
yeah,
I think that's a great pick for you guys. Or I can't think about the other guy, the cornerback that was a wide receiver in college off the top of my head. He's like the 3rd overall corner right now. I don't know if you can look that up for me, John.
Are you talking about Caleb Farley?
Yeah, Farley, yeah.
Farley, yeah.
That would be the one to me that would be more likely, like in the range of where they could trade up to get him, because I think Horn is going to go, at least 10 spots ahead of where the Titans are picking probably, and they're not going to want to give up the kind of capital that you would have to do that. But if Caleb Farley is still there within, in that 17 to 19 range, or maybe even Kwity Paye from Michigan, the pass rusher, one of those kinds of guys would be, I think, a good pick for the Titans.
It's going to be interesting to see who falls too. I think I'm already hearing Justin Fields falling, and I mean, honestly, it's one of those deals you never know. Some teams are going to reach for guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this draft starts at number 4, and what the Falcons are going to do right after that, San Francisco and Atlanta picks are going to be, they're going to set the tone for the entire draft.
Well, Atlanta took Arthur Smith from us, so he's their new head coach.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, he's more of an offensive minded coach, but I mean, Atlanta is very much in a rebuild too. There's a lot of teams that are rebuilding, so it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, and going back to that Titans defense, man, losing Clowney didn't help you guys either.
Well, he was. I was pumped about that signing, and then he came here and did jack shit. So it's just kind of.
Yeah, but I mean, you lose a talent like that. I mean, it's hard to replace essentially too, especially a rusher like that. He might not have gotten the production that you would liked, but he makes an impact on the field, even though he wasn't able to produce.
Man, he threw shade at the Titans too on his. I don't know if you guys saw that.
He did whenever he released his statement for being part of the Browns.
Signing to Cleveland, and he said that he was excited about. But he said something about you guys went further than we did last year, and he's like, I'm excited to play with actually skilled players on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, dude, come on, you didn't do anything for us last year, and you have no right to talk. But it is what it is. I mean, I think He's one of those guys too. Everyone was really excited about, man. I don't think anyone's going to really miss him. It sucks that he didn't get an opportunity to really showcase what he could do here, but dude, I mean, it's professional, man. It's you get one shot, man, and if it doesn't work out, you're out, man. I mean,
Yep.
so you got to be on it. And I mean, those guys are getting paid millions, man. Come on, you got no excuse for that.
Yeah, I think you'll still miss his presence being out there more than anything.
Well, he attracts a lot of attention, and he gets a lot of pressures. He gets to the quarterback faster than almost anybody in the league. He just, for whatever reason, hasn't gotten a ton of sacks the last couple of years.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that knee injury, man, too. I think that's gonna plague him the rest of his career.
We shall see. Well, sounds like the Titans need to get younger on defense. Maybe they trade up, but I think I like them to stay right where they are and build that defense, like you're saying.
That's what we're hoping for here. Like we've got the offense. Everyone's going to be hoping for for a young, talented, fast defense. For 3-4 years, so we can compete, man. I mean, we got in the playoffs last year. I mean, won the AFC South. I was pumped, but I knew we weren't. I knew we were not built to win a championship.
Yeah, I mean, everything goes through Arrowhead. At least for the next couple of years in that AFC division. So I mean, you got to be able to score, and you got to be able to at least get pressure on Mahomes, and that's the key. And for me personally, for you guys, I like the Titans living there in Nashville too. I think they got to go on that defensive line, get some pressure up there. I know the secondary was awful, but if you can get pressure on the quarterback, it makes it so much easier for those guys in the back to cover.
Those two go hand in hand, man. I mean, you can only cover a guy for so long.
Exactly.
And I mean, if you're not to the quarterback, 2-3 seconds, man. I mean, most of the time, someone's going to get open.
Yeah,
I
mean,
and
the quarterbacks in that division are Carson Wentz. We don't know what he's going to be like, but
he's a wild card. Yeah.
And then I keep forgetting the other teams in that division. Oh, Deshaun Watson, if he's even going to play.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
and then Jacksonville is obviously
Trevor Lawrence
is going to be a rookie. So
and now they've got Urban Meyer too.
So I mean, Trevor Lawrence, man, you just never know. He could have a great year, just like a Justin Herbert. So
yeah, man, it's the AFC South is. Is one of those divisions that's rebuilding, but I think they're going to be a powerhouse, man, in 3-4 years. I think that's going to be a tough division.
Yeah, it just all depends on what happens with Watson. I think.
I agree.
Well, and Trevor Lawrence, obviously, and really, it just depends on what happens with all three of those other quarterbacks. Because I mean, we kind of know what Tannehill is at this point, but all those three other guys, we know how good Deshaun Watson is, but we don't know how long he's going to be on the team. We don't know when he's going to be available again. The way that things are going. I mean, I don't want to get too much into that, legal proceedings and stuff, but the way that things are going, he might have a tough time playing football for a couple of years. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It's, I mean.
Well, the Titans should win the division.
It's really the Titans and the Colts, right?
Yeah.
The Colts have a much better defense than the Titans do. So that, It depending on how Carson Wentz ends up playing, they have some guys on offense. They have some weapons on offense. So it's really a 2-horse race in that division this year for sure, especially considering Deshaun Watson's probably not going to be playing this year.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously last year too, man, the emergence of Jonathan Taylor too scares me.
Yeah.
So,
and then Pittman too for them.
He's going to be, I think the AFC South might be one of those divisions that everyone looks at and every team just got a stud running back. I think. Maybe outside of Houston, but they'll figure something out.
All right. Well, I think that'll do it for our update from Nashville. Thank you very much, Brian, for joining us today.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, brother.
All right. Well, that was a fun time. Nice talking with everybody there. But I am ready to talk some Carolina Panthers. How about you?
Dude, I've been waiting for this all afternoon.
I know. So Panthers are picking number 8 overall. A lot of buzz around that pick right now. Lots of talk about how they are fielding a whole lot of calls. The GM's putting up Scott Fitterer, the new GM, signed from Seattle. It's putting out all kinds of smoke screens saying how many teams are interested in the trade, but it's going to depend on how the first 7 picks go in front of them. So it is an exciting time to be drafting 8th overall for the Panthers. And our last 8th overall pick was Christian McCaffrey. So it's a good omen right there, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, you can't ask for a better 8th overall pick, I don't think.
Right. So everybody thought we wanted to go quarterback. Well, there was the whole phase where Panthers fans all wanted Deshaun Watson, but nobody, for obvious reasons, wants to touch Deshaun Watson right now. Who knows if he'll even play in the NFL this season? Who knows if he'll wind up in prison? Who knows what's going to happen with that? So nobody is considering Deshaun Watson anymore. The Panthers did, however, make a trade for Sam Darnold. I know you and I both had some mixed feelings about that. We don't really know. Nobody really knows how much Sam Darnold was held back by the Jets. He's only 23 years old, so he's actually I think he's younger than Joe Burrow, for example. So he's still got room and time to develop. It's just kind of a matter if if it was the Jets holding him back and squashing all that talent out of him, or is it just his inability to adjust to the NFL? Because the guy is talented.
Yeah, I mean, and going back before we get into Sam Darnold, I was one of those fans that wanted Deshaun Watson. I thought I just didn't want to give up all those draft picks that they were going to be asking for, which I thought was insane to begin with. And then all the allegations came out, and let's stay away from that. We don't need any of that drama into a rebuilding program. Mm-hmm. But yeah, going into Sam Darnold, he was in the Jets, man. It's a shit show up there. Me and you both know that. They didn't really give him an all offensive line to show his skills, I don't think. I was never really sold on Teddy Bridgewater. I never liked that signing to begin with. Sam Darnold, I'm lukewarm, I'd say. I'm not thrilled about it, but I'm not mad at it either. I think, he can, like I said, you brought up, he's probably the youngest quarterback that's not going to be in this NFL draft, coming out at 23. So, I like that. And being with Carolina, I think he'll have a better time to shine. And then he's reconnecting with Robbie Anderson, who had a great connection with when he was in the Jets. So I can see it being, something good. But at the same time, I'm not completely sold on Sam Darnold as the quarterback of the future for the Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, Robbie Anderson had more yards with Teddy Bridgewater as a quarterback than he ever had with Sam Darnold, but that's not the only factor that plays into that, right? With the Jets, he wasn't playing with DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel. He was playing with Christian McCaffrey. Oh, well, I guess Christian McCaffrey was out most of last year, but he didn't have those other receivers there to take the attention off of him, and just in general, not as much talent, which is saying something, because the Panthers aren't exactly stacked with talent, like you said. I mean, they got some good skill position guys, but they're another team that's in a rebuilding mode. Just the Jets are a whole different level of awful.
Yeah, I mean, and Teddy Bridgewater had the weapons, like you said, with DJ Moore and I mean, even I'm drawing a blank on the running back that filled in for Christian McCaffrey.
Mike Davis.
Yeah, Mike Davis. He did great. I mean, I can't even say that he was awful. So,
he's
sorry,
on the Falcons now, though.
Yeah, excuse this train that's rolling by right now at the perfect time.
That's all right. That happens. I'm just glad it's not police sirens. I always get worried when somebody's got police sirens in their Zoom background. Then all of a sudden they go mute and their video goes away.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about the police sirens with me, but there's an occasional 7 trains that roll by my office a day. So, and this is just the 6th of the 7.
So here's a question: as Scott Fitterer says, it depends on who's available. So let's just say, obviously, Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson are going number 1 and 2. Those guys are going to be gone. And then the 49ers are picking a quarterback. It's just a matter of whether it's Mac Jones or Justin Fields. Yeah. First, let's ask ourselves, if there's one of these quarterbacks available, do the Panthers take them before we get into other positions? So the 3 guys that would, that are being talked about in the top 10 that would potentially fall that far would be Mac Jones, Trey Lance, and Justin Fields. So, depending on where you look, they have these guys going in different orders. And really, that's what's tough about the mock drafts. They tend to get the position right, but they don't necessarily get the actual player right to the correct team. So it's kind of a matter of A, who the 49ers take, and then B, whether the Falcons and the Lions are trying to take a quarterback. Because if both those teams take a quarterback, then, or if even one of them takes a quarterback, then you start running out of options. So out of Justin Fields, Trey Lance, and Mac Jones, are there any of those guys that you would take if they're available at the number 8 spot, or would you rather not have a quarterback there?
I mean, at this point, you've already traded for Sam Darnold.
Right, but he's essentially on a 1-year deal because they don't have to decide on his 5th-year option until after the draft.
Yeah, but at the same time, you haven't traded Teddy Bridgewater either. So
Yeah,
I mean,
but you can get rid of Teddy Bridgewater, and this is
Yeah.
going to be a quarterback on a rookie deal. Like, it's not going to. Both Sam Darnold and Teddy Bridgewater can be gone after this season, and they're still in rebuilding mode. So the contract implications aren't that big of a deal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like. I'm not sold on any of the quarterbacks. I mean, Justin Fields maybe, but I'm just not sold on any of them. I don't know anything about Trey Lance. I saw him play the one game at the beginning of the year last year, and that was it. And I wasn't really that impressed. I mean, he can make plays and run around, but other than that, I don't know a lot about him.
Well, he has a really good arm, and he's kind of like Zach Wilson, where he can. I mean, any of these guys, except for, I don't know if I would put Mac Jones in this category, but guys who can separate their hips and their shoulders from their lower body and make throws on the run. That's why people like him, is because he has all the physical tools. But you're right, he's definitely a developmental prospect more so than any of these other guys. These other guys are definitely more quote unquote NFL ready than Trey Lance is.
Yeah, I mean, I just like Justin Fields. If we do take a quarterback there, I like him over at the other two. Just for the intangibles, he's got the size. He can throw, and he wins. I mean, I know everybody hates on the 2 bad games he had with Northwestern and whoever the other team was. I can't remember, against a great defense, but against Clemson, he outplayed Trevor Lawrence in that semifinal game.
Yeah.
Against Alabama was just a better team. Let's be real here. I mean, there was no arguing who was going to win the championship this year. We all kind of had an idea that Alabama was going to kind of steamroll through everybody, and they did. So I mean, he still did hurt. If he was hurt still from those past games, he still did good. I mean, I like.
He was
Justin
definitely
Fields.
hurt.
Yeah, and I think if you're going to get a backup quarterback, or if you're going to let Justin Fields sit, or even have competition with Sam Darnold, I like Justin Fields going in there and being able to compete and maybe winning the job from Sam Darnold, possibly. So I mean, and then also having like a Sam Darnold or a Teddy Bridgewater be your backup. It's not a bad thing to have a solid backup player.
Absolutely. So you can never have too many quarterbacks. And that's the thing. And that's what Tepper is trying to do here, I think, is just basically keep swinging until he hits, because you can cover up deficiencies at other positions, but at quarterback, you have to at least have somebody better than what Teddy Bridgewater was last year.
Exactly. And Teddy could be a solid backup quarterback if that's what he wants to do.
Right. Like, in order for Teddy Bridgewater to be successful and like lead teams to the playoffs, he has to have a great team around him. Like, he could do it. It's a team sport, right? But quarterback is so far and away the most important position. You really have to have one. So yeah, if Justin Fields is there, I would definitely say take Justin Fields. I don't know why there's been kind of this fall off in appreciation for Justin Fields. I think he's great. I think he's right there with Zach Wilson as far as the things that he can do athletically and with his arm angles and stuff like that. Even if Trey Lance is there, I would say Trey Lance. But one person that I don't think I want them taking is Mac Jones. I don't see anything that Mac Jones can do that Sam Darnold can't. I think Sam Darnold is more mobile, more athletic, and is better at adjusting those arm angles, like we're talking about with Justin Fields and Zach Wilson. Like that was Sam Darnold like MO coming out of college was he can throw on the run, he can adjust,
Mhm.
he can make all these crazy throws and still maintain his accuracy.
And
So
and I believe they're the same age.
I don't know that, but if Trey Lance and Justin Fields, I think he and Justin Fields are about the same age. Yeah, but if Trey Lance and Justin Fields, if either of them are available, I would like the Panthers to go ahead and take them. But if they're not, the question then becomes: do they trade? Do they take either Rashawn Slater or Penei Sewell on the O line, because their O line definitely needs a left tackle? Like Taylor Moton's pretty decent. Paradis is a serviceable center. And the guards, it's nice to have good guards, but it's kind of almost interchangeable, like the kind of middle tier of offensive line there for your guard positions. You can kind of plug and play some guys there. And so I think the guards are serviceable enough. It's really that left tackle position and protecting the quarterback where they have to get better. So if they don't draft a quarterback and they don't trade, I'd like to see Rashawn Slater, or if Penei Sewell is there, they definitely, that means probably more quarterbacks went, and they definitely need to draft Penei Sewell, because he's been, basically he was number 2 on everybody's top prospects after Trevor Lawrence. Like, he was ahead of Zach Wilson and Justin Fields and all these other guys, just as a position, indistinct of what position they play, just a sheer prospect ranking.
Yeah, and a fun fact for you is, Penei Sewell, out of 429 snaps that were throwing plays, he allowed 0 sacks.
Wow. That's
0. And I agree with you. I think, we need definitely an offensive lineman for sure. And if we can get Penei Sewell, absolutely. I just don't know what's going to happen at Cincinnati with 5, if they go with him or if they go with Jamar Chase. Because Joe Burrow is going to be hooting and hollering for Chase to come join him in Cincinnati.
Yeah, Kyle Pitts also, if, depending on what the Falcons do, if the Falcons end up going quarterback, then I think the Bengals probably take Kyle Pitts. I think Kyle Pitts will probably go to Atlanta, but yeah, Cincinnati's kind of a wild card there between, like you said, Jamar Chase, Penei Sewell, or if Kyle Pitts manages to drop down there.
Yeah, I mean, and I said earlier, and before our preview for this podcast, I love Kyle Pitts. I'm so high on him. I texted you. I was like, if we could get him, that'd be awesome. Doesn't look like that's going to happen at all, period.
No, it's like a contest out there to see who can be the biggest, the biggest Kyle Pitts love fest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I think he is one of those guys that does make a difference on the offense for sure. Just all the games that I watched him play at Florida, man, him and Kyle Trask, man, it was just every time, man, they just couldn't stop it. It was unbelievable.
That's why Kyle Trask was good. It's not because Kyle Trask is some great quarterback, it's because he had such an incredible offense around him.
He could just throw it to Kyle Pitts and he would just go get it. I mean, in that SEC championship game against Atlanta, or Alabama, he would just go get the ball. Yeah. That's all he was doing. But for me personally, I know you love the offensive line. I think we need a lot of help in the back for secondary. If we can, and I know Surtain will be there the second. I love going him, even if we have to trade out of this pick and go and get like a Surtain or a Horn back later on in the draft. I love that because I think one of those guys will be there around that. If we go back, because the Patriots want to move up, so anywhere around that 12 to 15 range, I can see.
Patrick Surtain's not going to be there at 15.
Well, Horn will be though.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah. I guess I could see them trading back. I'd rather have them take a stud offensive lineman to anchor that O-line for the next, 8 years. But, we'll see. They definitely do need help at corner. I wouldn't be mad if they took Patrick Surtain. I think you would if you want him, you have to take him there because he's not going to make it past the Cowboys and the Eagles. So
no, he's not. But maybe one of those, the Cowboys trade up if somebody's there for us. I mean, who knows? I really don't know what's going to happen in this draft, but I like Surtain as my favorite if we can get him, other than Pitts, and then maybe go get an offensive line in the second round, somewhere around there, because I think we got 2 second-round picks, if I'm not mistaken, from the trade with somebody. Did we trade or during that Sam Darnold trade, or we lose one?
They lost. I don't think they have a second round pick anymore. I think
Okay.
they traded it for Sam Darnold.
Well, maybe go get an offensive line in the third round or something. Or
Oh
even
no, they do. They do.
We do.
They're number 39 in the second round. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, go get an offensive lineman there.
I mean, it's a deep draft, but if Panay Sewell is there, like you got to take.
Oh,
Penei Sewell.
absolutely. I mean, the stat I just threw out there: 429 snaps and 0 sacks. Absolutely, you go get that guy. But if he's not there, I see a bigger need at corner when we have the likes of Julio Jones, Michael Thomas, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, those big time wide receivers in our division. We need to stop those guys.
I mean, you're right, but at the same time, like the modern NFL rules make it so difficult to stop anyone, especially if they're as good as some of those guys are. Like you really have to have like total lockdown guys. And so that's why corner is such a valuable position. Like, right, the corner, receiver,
D-line,
edge rusher, and offensive tackle are analytically the most important positions other than quarterback because it's such a passing league. And I don't know, they signed AJ Bouye. He's suspended for the first 2 games, but he's somebody who's been a Pro Bowler and really successful in the league. I think Denver let him go more just based on his behavior than based on his performance. So if he can get it together, he's going to help out a lot on that back end. I believe they let Dante Jackson walk this offseason. So they definitely need to retool at corner. But we're just still in such a rebuilding phase. I think that you really have to take, match the best players available. And I think Rashawn Slater, like this O-line class is very good. And I think, every year there's a few corners coming out that are pretty highly touted, but there's just so many good offensive linemen. I think Rashawn Slater is up there, pretty close with Panay Sewell. There's even some drafts I've seen with Slater going before Panay Sewell. So I think if one of those 2 guys is there, you really got to go offensive line and protect the quarterback.
Yeah, it's all going to depend on, what happens around 3, 4, and then 5, really, with Cincinnati. I mean, you got San Francisco, Atlanta, Cincinnati right in that little range right there. That's we don't know what they're going to do. We have no clue. Everybody else, you kind of have an idea of the route that they're going. And hell, everybody keeps saying that the Dolphins are going to pick a wide receiver. I mean, I would try and get somebody to protect Tua too.
That's true. Yeah, they could go online there. And then you never know. We talked a little bit about the Patriots possibly trading up a couple of times here. You never know if they're going to try and make a trade with Detroit there and hop in front of the Panthers and take one of those quarterbacks or something. So we'll see how it all plays out on Thursday night, and we will break down what ends up actually happening next week and what that means for Sam Darnold and Teddy Bridgewater and the rest of the Panthers offense.
Yeah, man, we've got a busy week this week and next week as far as shows go.
We do. So we'll be putting out an episode on Thursday, recapping this past weekend's UFC card. I'm really excited to talk about that. UFC 261 was a blockbuster. It was absolutely awesome. All 3 championship fights delivered. All 5 main card fights delivered. The prelims were exciting too. Everything was great. Live audience back in the building, full capacity crowd. So really excited to break that one down. And then we got Yuri and Dominic Reyes this Saturday as well. So look for that on our channel here and social media on Thursday afternoon probably. And as always, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at RHLH Podcasts. Our Facebook page is up now as well. So we'll have all those linked in the bio. And thanks for joining us today. We'll see you Thursday.
Yeah, and please subscribe because that's how we get all of we're reaching out for sponsors. So the more subscribers we have, the better. Hit that subscribe button at the bottom. It's really easy. All you got to do is hover over the logo, click it, boom, you're done.